In this video, I'll share with you a little bit about population genetics and the Hardy-Weinberg laws that we talked about in class. If you recall, the Hardy-Weinberg laws that are listed right here, although I know you can't read them, but you have this lab in your notebook, there are 7 rules that, if they're followed, would mean that a population wouldn't evolve at all. Well, how do you put a number on evolution? That is, how do you gauge how much something evolves? The secret is you look at the frequency of the alleles. Let me explain. You know that humans are diploid organisms. That means we've got 2 copies of each gene. One that we get from our mother, one we get from our father. These might not always be the same. For example, if there's a gene for, let's say, eye color, big B might indicate blue eyes. Little b might indicate red eyes. We'll make this up because clearly that's not actually true. So each person has 2 copies of each gene. You might have 2 little alleles like that. You might have 2 big alleles like that. You might have, a little and a big, or you might have 2 big alleles like that. There's all sorts of different possibilities. That's for one individual. When we're dealing with this kind of thing, we don't really care about the individuals. We care about how many little bees or how many big bees there are total in the entire population. So let's say, for example, there are 100 individuals in our population, 100 organisms. If they each have 2 alleles, that means there's 200 alleles total. So there we go. That means all of the math that we do will be out of 200. Well, if everything was even, the number of big bees and the number of little bees was even, there'd be 100 of these, 100 of these, and 100 divided by 200 is 0.5, or 50%. So the ratio would be 50-50. There's 50 big bees, 50 little bees. Keep in mind, this doesn't tell you what each individual looks like. It just tells you about the population as a whole. Now, if you sampled this population, and then you came back, I don't know, 25, 30 years later, and you found that there were only 50 out of 200 that were big B, and 150 out of 200 that were little b, clearly something has changed. So what we can do here is figure out that that's 0.25 and that's 0.75. So there must be some disadvantage to having a big B and some advantage to having a little b, because the number of organisms with little b's went up. Again, we can't talk about the individuals here. We don't know who's got big B and who's got a little b, but we know that there are more little b's in the population, so it must be advantageous for some particular reason. Perhaps it's beneficial in finding a mate, perhaps it's beneficial in finding food or surviving in some other way. But this is how we can put a number on evolution.